friends, welcome back to my channel. If you don't already know, my name's Fee and I post weekly videos here on YouTube about me and my family's new life here in the Netherlands from the United States. And in today's video, I'm going to be discussing why we chose to leave the US and move here to the Netherlands. So if you like this type of content, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. It helps me out a lot and shows that you support my channel. So I've been getting a lot of comments from subscribers asking why we chose to leave the US and move here to the Netherlands. And that's what today's video is basically going to be about. This video is not here to say that the US is this terrible place and dog on the US. It's basically just my perspective and the reasons why we chose to leave. So let's jump right into number one, which is safety. So I find the safety here in the Netherlands obviously completely different than it is in the US. But I can speak for myself that I actually feel as a woman quite safe in general here in the Netherlands. It doesn't feel like I'm always having to look over my shoulder. I generally feel very safe when I'm out on the streets, even when it's at night. You know, in the US, especially in the larger cities, when you were out walking at night, you always had to be aware of your surroundings. You wanted to make sure that someone wasn't following you, that there wasn't some shady activity going on around the corner where gunshots would start getting fired. You know, you always just had to be looking over your shoulder and making sure that everything was kosher. You know, I was speaking to one of my good friends the other day, and she told me about such an unfortunate situation that happened while she was watching her grandson in the US just last week. Now, he generally is not allowed to play outside the house because there's been a lot of issues going on in their neighborhood with gunshots being fired. But she was with him, so she figured that she would sit on the porch and let him play with one of his friends. And so they were just walking up and down the streets, you know, riding their skateboards. And out of nowhere, they came running back to the house talking about someone was firing gunshots. A random person was just firing gunshots from his car. I mean, I think this is such an unfortunate situation, especially because he's 9 years old. What kid should have to experience that? And so it's situations like this that made us really eager to leave the States, especially because we are raising a young boy. We just didn't want him to be caught up in things like this. Now, this is not to say that crime does not exist here in the Netherlands. It's just nowhere near the level that it is in the US. And the second reason we chose to leave the US is that in as much as we don't get to see family on a daily basis or a weekly basis, is that if we chose to visit, it's not that far to get back home. It's actually easy to get back home from Schiphol Airport. There's a lot of options for direct flights that take about 8 to 8.5 hours. So it's not like we're across the world to where we don't get to see our families if we choose to go and visit. So we don't feel completely ostracized here in the Netherlands. On top of that, thanks to technology, we get to FaceTime with family quite often. So that deep feeling of homesickness doesn't really take me or take us over. And the third reason why we chose to leave the US and move here to the Netherlands is that the Netherlands is very family friendly. I mean, I have never lived anywhere that's so family oriented. I've never experienced this before until we moved here to the Netherlands. And for me, it really warms my heart because I do have a young family. And because of that, I feel like the Netherlands is the best place to be for our situation. You know, every time Cameron goes out to play in one of the playgrounds that's just right by the house, you always notice that one of the moms or dads are always looking out their windows, watching the kids to make sure that they're all doing okay. I don't know, I just feel really lucky to be raising a child here in the Netherlands. You know, raising a child in the US is so different than it is here. For example, I would never let Cameron walk home from school. And if I did because of circumstances, then I would be a nervous wreck just because of the fear of what he would encounter on his way home. You know, I've seen or heard of so many missing children in the US or just all that type of craziness happening, and it's completely different here in the Netherlands. And the fourth reason is the school system here in the Netherlands. Netherlands. The school system here in the Netherlands is really, really, really good. You may or you may not be aware of how school systems work in the United States, but basically kids go to schools in certain school districts, and your school district is determined based on where you live. So for example, if you are from an area that is considered, underprivileged, then your kid automatically goes to a school that's not well funded, where their education system is not great, and it's just a really, really backward system. So it almost comes down to the wealthier you are, then the better education that your child gets. But here in the Netherlands, it's all fair across the board. In the US, you're paying your arm and your leg literally for your child to get good education. And that's in the form of taxes if they're in the elementary or high school level. And then later on, when they're in university, that's the out-of-pocket cost that you're having to pay. Guys, so I'm editing this video and I just realized that whilst I got up to go and answer the door, that I knocked the microphone out of place and that the sound quality of the video from here on out is a little bit muffled and sounds distant. So I'm so sorry about that, guys. Please bear with me, and as always, thank you so much for your love and support. I don't think that you should have to pay these exorbitant amounts for education. I mean, I think a lot of things, but my point is, in the Netherlands, things are different. In the US, if you're the kind of parent who you would like to assist your child through college, which we would definitely like to assist Cam as best as we could. However, the US makes this very challenging. If you were to have 2 or 3 kids, especially, then you would definitely go bankrupt trying to assist your kids through university. We would basically have to eat rice and beans for the entire college years just to get by so we could send them to school. However, here in the Netherlands, those exorbitant costs are not something that you have to worry about. So the 5th thing is a higher standard of living. The standard of what you get for what you pay for, at least in my state, is so little. You get basically nothing for your buck, and it makes absolutely no sense. But here in the Netherlands, you have a higher standard of living as well as it's affordable. Your entire salary doesn't go towards paying your rent or your mortgage, and you still have money left over to go out with friends, to have fun. In addition to that, you see that the money that you pay towards taxes, for example, here in the Netherlands, go towards something. So things are taken care of here in the Netherlands. A good example is the roads. We were shocked when we moved here to the Netherlands and saw how perfect the roads were. Like, I literally have not seen a single pothole. The streets in my city after the winter were a complete wreck, and I'm not even kidding. Your car could legitimately get lost in one of those potholes, and your car could be badly damaged going through one of those potholes. But here in the Netherlands, you see where those taxes you're paying are going towards in terms of roads and several other things. So number 6 is nature. So coming from a big city, nature wasn't really a big thing in my life. I never really looked out the window and saw greenery. But to live and actually be surrounded by nature puts me in a really peaceful mindset. To be able to wake up and see the greenery, or even just walk 20 minutes and be able to see, beautiful trees or even horses is really therapeutic for me, which we didn't have in the US. And now that we've experienced it, I'm not sure I'd ever want to give it up. And the last point I want to talk about is traveling. To travel anywhere, even within the United States, is expensive. But here in the Netherlands, we're surrounded by several countries, and I find it easy to travel anywhere. Plus, it's not that expensive. So it's very exciting for us because we love to travel, we love to see new places, and being here in the Netherlands, we can travel freely to any European countries, we can travel conveniently and affordably. And on top of that, we still have money to spend once we get to the destination that we're traveling to. Anyways, guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a comment as to why the Netherlands is a great choice, or any comment about the points that I made. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video. And until next week, doei!